Are you a woman in tech? Have you ever felt like a fraud at work? In 1978, psychologists Clance and Imez discovered the phenomenon of high-achieving women doubting their own abilities. Self-doubt holds us back, especially in technology, where women are underrepresented. We asked women leaders in tech how they overcame imposter syndrome. Listen to their stories on ImpostHER.
Currently, I am the manager of strategy and analytics at a PR firm called Garson. What that role actually entails is it means that I'm actually a lead developer in a Django shop. I am self-taught, or actually self-taught's probably not the right word to use. Community taught is one that I've been kind of playing around with a little bit, just because I started teaching myself how to code about 5 years ago, and didn't really get my sea legs until I found a community around me to learn how to code with. For me, imposter syndrome is actually just part of my day-to-day life at this point. It's something that I always feel in every room I go into, and for me, it's just about how to combat it and how to help others combat it. When I was considering what to major in college, and I remember computer science came up, and my dad was like, well, you're not that great at math, so maybe it's not for you. And, that kind of stuck with me. And I remember, being afraid to kind of challenge myself in that way. And so, the time that I got a program to work, I was like, oh my God, I did this thing. And everything around me has told me that I can't do this thing. And I did it. Like, this is great. And so, for me, it's been trying to find the right pathway and to having people listen and believe me when I say, I could build things and I can make things and I can make things better than you. At one point, I was asked to coach at a Python workshop at the New Organizing Institute. And I was like, why are you asking me to coach? What? I'm just learning. And the person who asked me was like, actually, you are just learning, but you've learned a lot already, so you should come and give back. And to me, I never thought that I could be a teacher. I never thought that, that is something that I can do. And so what's interesting is I went there and I was able to kind of help people run their first program. I got a Python tattooed on my arm, actually, to get a physical tattoo. One of the things that I've seen just in my 5 years of being part of the industry, which has been really fascinating to me, is that the barriers to entry keep ratcheting up and up and up. And so, I think that leads us, people who don't look like what you imagine a developer to look like, in a really interesting place. Is that when I first started doing this, you need one set of skills. You really needed to be a strong SQL developer, and then you needed to have a scripting language, and then you need to know machine learning. And what's really interesting is that a lot of the folks who are engineers themselves come from very different backgrounds. But there's this level of respectability that's seen as, this person is smart, this person comes from the sciences, and maybe, they might have just as much experience with Python as me. They're seen as more credible and more competent, whereas they might be able to accept somebody who might come from a different background if they look like them. I find that it's harder to kind of mesh into that. And so figuring out where I could put my own place into this, and, going to work every day and writing code is something that I see as something that I had to fight really hard to do. And, knowing that I had to fight to get to where I am kind of puts me in a really interesting position. And so I feel like knowing that that's something that I'm doing almost makes me want to fight even harder and bring more and more people into it. Imposter syndrome is something that I think everybody faces. Men, women, everybody. But we feel it harder as women. And especially if you look a little bit different than everybody else, if you come from a different background, it's harder. And I think just knowing that everybody has a place in this industry, and everybody has a place to do great work, and just creating supportive environments. Also, not waiting for credibility from somebody else is actually something that for me, one of the things for me is I kept on waiting for somebody to tell me I was a great developer, and you might not get that. So just keep building, keep doing things, and I try to tell everybody that they are, that I meet, but especially when I give workshops and things, is just knowing that, like, it's not that hard to break into it, and it's not as complicated as it seems.